Hello and welcome along. In this video, I get to talk to the great guy that is known as Mr. Teams Nation, Chris Hoard. Stay tuned. So I've just come off a great call with my friend Chris, where he's talked to me about how he got involved in the MVP community, what the MVP community means to him, a bit about his fashion sense and how he's got this great jacket that I'm sure everyone's desperate to see him in at some point soon, and how things went about from the event we know today called Teams Nation, how it started off with an idea in his kitchen, over the years of how it's developed, and then he's also shared with us some great tips on public speaking and so on. So let's go and check that out now with me and Chris and find out more about what we spoke about. Right, good morning, Chris. Good to be chatting to you once again. Welcome along. I thought it'd be really good for us to talk things over, a little bit about yourself, go on to talk about Teams Nation and what Teams Nation is, what it's all about, and so on. So before we go into that, though, it'd be good to know who you are, what you do day to day, and such. So you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks very much, Paul. It's really good to be talking to you today. So my name's Chris Hoard. I'm partner education lead for a company called Vusion here in the UK. So Vusion are a tier 2 CSP, in other words, an indirect distributor to Microsoft partners. And in my role as a partner education lead, I head up the education part of the business. So my job is to create, build and deliver courses about Microsoft 365 or Azure or the Power Platform. It's a really great job. I used to be a teacher in a secondary school before I was in IT. So life's really very much kind of gone full circle. I was an architect for a lot of years. I used to run the professional services part of the group. I think they're trying to put me out to pasture, so I don't have to worry about the delivery side of things. It's more about, I guess, skilling and empowering people to be good at their jobs.
Oh, brilliant. So you used to be a teacher. That's really interesting to hear that. I mean, it is funny because like a lot of IT trainers out there have come from that education background of teaching and so on. How has that changed from working in classrooms with students to the big world of teaching adults, I guess?
So surprisingly, not much, particularly on the behavioural management. I mean, when I was a secondary school teacher, I wasn't an IT teacher. I used to be a geography teacher. So I did my degree in geographical science. I used to come in with my jacket with the little patches on the elbows, with a scarf. I used to be the fool. I used to look like Doctor Who or something. You know, I never wanted to be in IT because I used to enjoy computers and it used to be a hobby. So I used to think that going into IT as a career would kind of spoil the fun. So I put everything in geography. I went to be a geography teacher. I was teaching kids about oxbow lakes and glaciation and settlements and volcanoes and that was from here in the UK. It's secondary school, so it was 11 to 16. They start all bubbly, all happy. They come in, they want to do anything, and then they get to that stage where you know, they hit that certain time in their lives and then suddenly they don't want to do anything, and for the rest of the years it's trying to get them to finish their work. But IT kind of getting back into teaching was something that I always wanted to do. When I started out in IT, I guess I was more interested in pursuing the technical and architecture side of it. But as the years went on, I kind of really wanted to get back into teaching. So it's kind of really worked out in that respect.
Brilliant. So I guess you are your typical teacher with, like you said, the jacket with the elbow pads, scarf. And it sounds like you spent a lot of your time poking the older kids just to make sure they're still paying attention.
Yeah, and you know what, the kind of the behavioural management strategies, they still do work today with getting some people to have to. I do have to get on their back sometimes. That, you know, you're going to take this exam, and you're going to kind of really make a go at it. Every time I do do a course. I give them a little speech at the beginning of it, about how it's like training for the Olympics. You have to kind of have this week of training, get your plan in place, get your brain focused for being in that space. And yeah, it's surprising how much of it does kind of still apply between children and adults. But I'm not going to go into each specific thing. I'm not going to try and give away, because I don't want people to tell, like, like which methods that I use to do that.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, because I know, for myself, I come from an education background, and then gone into training adults and so on. And I always found that, like, teaching teachers and teaching adults was always a lot harder than actually working with the kids themselves.
Yeah, of course. And I today, when teaching, it's not of course just about the content. It's about trying to understand learning methodologies, how people learn best. You have things like VAC, which is visual, audio, and kinesthetic. You have things like ColourWorks, which understand the personality types. It's really important to know who you're teaching before they actually kind of turn up. I think half of that is the battle.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So you're a Microsoft MVP, aren't you?
I am. I've just we have a section of the year, the end of March, we have to submit to see if you can qualify, shall we say, as or be awarded again. It's a kind of a program that's run on a yearly basis, and it's not once you're an MVP, you're an MVP for life. You have to prove and be awarded on a yearly basis. So we've just finished that at the end of March. I've got one award, hoping to get the second one. I'll know at the beginning of July, so we'll see. But MVP was something, funnily enough, that I never really, for a long stretch of my career, wasn't interested in it. Never kind of really explored to find out more about it. I've come very much, I would say, later in my career. I know people that have been in IT for a little bit. They're still quite young. They've heard of the MVP program. They want to get on board. But for a large part of mine, over 10 years, 12 years, never really was kind of interested in that. I was very much kind of focused in the corporate world.
Okay. Oh. So you said there you've been an MVP for a year. I know myself, like, just recently come into the community of speaking to people, attending events, and talking to a lot of other MVPs, and your name pops up everywhere. I mean, it's like whenever you speak to anyone, it's always, oh, you spoke to Chris before. When you see events, talking things, your name's there. So it's a bit of a surprise that it's only been 1 year of an MVP. Because for me, I know I've only just come into it, but it seems you've been in it a long time. Your experience, you're a big part of the community, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, my MVP story, I say a year. I kind of I was awarded just after the renewal period, so it's been more like 2 that I've actually been in MVP. However, I would say that I was probably active in the community maybe for about a year before that point. So really, I've been in the community just probably 3.5 years at this point. My MVP story very much started out like many others. It started out with the Microsoft Tech community. So one day I went on to the Microsoft Tech community. I signed up for it, and I was looking in the communities, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft 365, and I was looking down and I saw that I could, kind of answer a question. So I did. And it kind of, whether that was good or a bad thing, because it gets very addictive, and after a while, you're on it, and you're answering people's questions, and through that you kind of move over from the corporate to the community world. You get to know people who are in the forums, you reach out, you develop kind of relationships with them. So Adam Deltinger, Vesku Nopanen, Chris Webb, the people who are big on the tech community, you get to know them. And then that bleeds over into attending events, doing AMAs, starting up your own user group, and it kind of goes from there, and then more and more opportunities come out. Also, as well, I think that for me, the community part was the big part that I was missing from the corporate world. So I was doing corporate job. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the corporate world. I like doing jobs for people and providing them with solutions. But I think it comes to a point after doing that for a time where you feel like you need something more. The community provides that for me. So it provides me with a network of great people that I can talk to and meet up at events. And for me, a lot of my friends are in the community. So I speak every day to Adam and Vesku and Chris, and there's always a good bit of banter between them. So it's provided that missing piece, and subsequently doing community work, it has its benefits for feeding back into your job.
Yeah.
Namely because, you know, it provides you with the things that you don't get from your job. So by being happier, you know, they balance they balance each other nicely.
Ah, fantastic. So you've met some, like I said, you've made friends through the community. So I'm guessing you didn't know those people before, because I know you do a lot of, like I said, the user groups with them. You have arranged Teams Nation with them and so on. So before joining the MVP community, you didn't know these people?
No, didn't know them. Didn't know them
Amazing.
at
Amazing.
all. You see them on the community, in the tech community. They keep popping up. You try and answer the same questions for people, and then you see somebody else has got an answer before you or something. And then Adam, right? Adam was probably the first person that I met. So Adam Deltinger, he's from Sweden. He's a Microsoft MVP, and he is the co-founder ultimately of Teams Nation with myself. And this is how we met, right? So we were going through a period where we were trying to really hammer the Microsoft Teams tech community. I mean, we were trying to just get answers as soon as they came up onto, you know, and there's a bit of kind of competitiveness, because it is fun. It is fun in that respect. You do try to outdo each other, right? And see, you know, that's as part of pushing each other and getting better. And we went to a call that was arranged by Laurie Potmayer, who's the community lead in the MVP program, for anyone who was interested in the future of becoming an MVP. So we were doing AMAs and the like at the time, and we were on there. And you know what it's like when you want to become an MVP. You try to answer every question. You want to get your point in on this. So we were in this meeting with Laurie, and we were asking questions, right? And Adam was trying to get in and ask these questions, and it was really funny because Adam was in his car, right? And he was kind of going between one meeting and another and trying to do this like whilst being in the car, and he kept dropping out and coming back in and saying, and I reached out to Adam after that meeting and just said, look, it was really quite funny, and that's how things kind of started off. You know, we started having a conversation. You know, you want to be an MVP. Yeah, what can we do more in the community than what we're already doing? And that's how the user group was kind of born. And it's yeah, that was the end of 2018, I think it was. And the only time that the only reason why I remember that is because it was in January 2019 when we actually created the user group and we started doing it.
Ah, brilliant. So what's the name of the user group that you do run?
So we run Teams Nation as both a conference and as a monthly user group. Now, the original names for them, for the user group, was the European Teams user group, which is a bit of a mouthful, you know, to get around, not particularly memorable, very set geographically. We didn't even think when we come up with a user group to be able to do a conference. We wanted a user group whereby Adam and myself could speak, but also as well meet other MVPs. So that's how we met Vesku. That's how we met Rick Van Russo. That's how we met Eric Marcy and Amanda Sterner. And because we created this user group and they came to speak at the user group on aspects of Microsoft Teams. And then I would say after about 3, 4, 5 months maybe, we decided, and I remember this because I was on my mobile. I'm texting Adam. I'm standing there in my kitchen, and we're having a conversation. And should we do a conference? And Adam's like, oh, I don't know. It would be a lot to organise. And we continued to have this conversation, and that became what we called Oktoberfest, because we were going to do it in October.
Okay.
Right. And we really struggled to get people. It would have been, we would have been lucky if we had 25 people for that conference. We were literally begging people to come and speak for us, because nobody knew us, and it was as hard to arrange that one as it was today, if you can believe it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy, and it was all off the cuff. It was all like we didn't know what we were doing. It was all last minute. Do we have slides that we provide people? And it was literally this kind of thing, right? And because we were just kind of learning, and then Vesku, who had spoken at the user group, Vesku was the one that nominated Adam and myself for MVP.
Oh, fantastic.
And we kept in touch with Vesku, and we knew we probably needed somebody else. So we said to Vesku, do you want to come on board? He said yes. And Vesku being Vesku said, the first thing, when he was on board was is Oktoberfest the right name for the conference? Right. And this was like 2 weeks before the conference was actually going.
Fantastic.
And we're like, oh, what do we do about this then? And because Vesku believed we needed something that was more towards Microsoft Teams, and we looked at it and we agreed. We also had people asking, why use the name Oktoberfest? It's on the wrong day. Oktoberfest happens in September. So we're like, yeah, we're gonna have to change this. So we changed it to Teams Fest.
Right.
And that's where Teams Fest was born. And we did a number of Teams Fests. And why we had to change the name to Teams Nation was because there was an organization in the US that had registered the name Teams Fest and the domains, and we didn't really want to go into conflict with that organization. They're the ones that also run SharePoint Fest, and you know what, it's fine. But the thing is that our conference is a community conference, and it's free, and we've got certain kind of rules around that, and it's a different vehicle than another corporate function that charges to go along for the events. We didn't want the community to get confused about that, so we just thought it's easier, as opposed to getting into arguments with people, just to change the name. And from that, you wouldn't believe it took us 4 days or something of continual, and we literally had like every suggestion under the sun that that can do with Teams and phonetic spellings of Teams, and
So give us one that it could have been then. Could it have been a Teams International or something? Could it have been, rather than Nation? Is that what?
Oh my God, I'm trying to think of one. It was everything from things like Teamsiacs to we had one that was We Do Teams, and we were going to go with that for a while. Believe it or not, we had a couple of hours where we were like, yeah, We Do Teams. And then we looked around. I said, no, we can't go with that. So Teams Nation was. Yeah, I think it was something that literally came out of it was me telling off my son for something, and then suddenly it came in. It wasn't even like it was some kind of, it was, and I just said, how about this, and we all went, yeah, and then that's how it came about.
It's a name that sticks, definitely. It's a well talked about event and name, and that takes us on brilliantly to what is Teams Nation, the event then?
Yeah, so Teams Nation, the conference, it's 100% free, 100% community-based conference that's based around Microsoft Teams, and we've added the kind of caveat on top of that it's also to do with extensibility options and its underlying technology. So for the kind of first time in the conference history, we're actually moving into two other directions, which is around extensibility, so Teams as a platform and being able to build and extend Microsoft Teams, so that's both full code and low code, no code through the Power Platform. And its underlying technologies. Teams is a converged application. When we use Teams, we also use SharePoint and OneDrive and Yammer and Stream and Exchange. So it's predominantly to talk about Microsoft Teams and other applications through the prism of Microsoft Teams at the same time. It's 100% free. We don't have any sponsors. We're kind of a bit different in that regard, because you do get some events out on the circuit that say they're, you know, community events. Community, we use that term loosely, and you know, to all extents and purposes, they're networking events, they're fronts for kind of commercial activity. I think that's pretty well known. Ours is literally a pure community event. Vesku, Adam, Chris Webb, Patrick Guillemonet, Raphael Kolner, myself, all of us kind of already work in corporate roles. We haven't got any need to have to create business, because we do business every day of our lives. So we wanted something to literally give back to people, and that's really kind of the whole premise of it. We have all spoken at lots of events, we have all attended lots of events. We wanted to create something for people that wanted to go along to a great conference, no strings attached, but also as well make sure that it's affordable as well, because that's a big thing. You know, some of these kind of first top rate conferences, if we think about the Microsoft Ignites or the like, you know, they're very expensive to get to. You've got to buy the flights and the hotels. You're looking at £7,000 to have what you know, that great conference experience. We wanted to do that without the cost to people, and that anyone from anywhere can kind of, you know, there's a big democratizing element to it.
Brilliant. That's good. I mean, this year you've got different languages being spoken in the event as well, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. You know, this time around we've got French, so we've got a French track that's run by Patrick Guillemonet and the AMS group. You know, AMS are brilliant at what they do. They do events all around the world. They do the Modern Workplace Conference Paris that Vesco and I spoke at in January as one of literally the best events on the circuit. Raphael Kolner and the team's Community Day. He also does SharePoint Saturday Cologne, and I think Collab Days Cologne later this year.
Right.
He's a regional director, and he's doing the German track. Now, doing, I guess, different languages isn't anything kind of, it's not something that we came up with. So there's other conferences that started to do this for a while, like the Microsoft 365 Virtual Marathon.
Yeah.
We liked that idea, so we incorporated it into ours too. I mean, it's great for diversity and inclusion, but also as well, well, you know, as I do, the whole world doesn't speak English as much as the English would want it to. So, you know, we have to do it. And it's good to bring out. We couldn't just literally, because of the logistics, couldn't extend it into as many languages as we like. So when we do Teams Nation next year in 2022, we've already agreed to do a track in Spanish with, you know, half Spanish speakers. So what are we having Spanish? We'd love to, honestly, but you know, it's just that we didn't have the logistics this time around. Next time, we promise. So, you know, there'll be some other languages next time, and we hope to build on that.
Amazing. So it's getting bigger every year, isn't it? I mean, I know last year I was a moderator on the education community track. This year you've got even more tracks on the event, and it just seems to be growing, and every year getting bigger and bigger. And it's probably one of the, from what I witnessed, the most anticipated events of the year to go and be as attendee at, but also to be speaking at. And I know I definitely loved being a moderator on it last year.
Yeah, it's due to the moderators and the speakers. You know, it really is down to them. You know, our jobs as the organisers is really just to kind of line that up and get that in place. If we go back to the first one, to Oktoberfest, Adam and I were celebrating that we managed to get like 25 25 credible people to speak at that event, including ourselves. And I think for that event we got 400 people. The second one, which was Teams Fest by the time, I think we had about 40 speakers and about 600 people, so it was a little bit bigger. The third one that we did was a kind of quite a big jump. So the one that we did back in October was about 1,200 people, and I would say I'm wanting to say about 70 speakers. So it went up by a sizable amount, and we kind of aimed at it again, to kind of that. So we're kind of going up and we're building it incrementally, as
Yeah.
opposed to trying to do something that's an insane size. I think it'd be an interesting point of where we go from this point, because there's 11 tracks, we've got 115 speakers, 115 sessions, over 130 speakers this time around. Do we make it, people have asked us, do we make it a multi-day event? Do we make it more kind of tracks than we do? Some people, they want to go and see all the sessions, but it's literally impossible, because you have several tracks at the same time. Will we make it any bigger? You know what? I don't know, because there has been conferences that have gone for size. I think, as again, this is something I don't think so. Is pretty well known, but there's a kind of trade-off in that. You can have hundreds and hundreds of sessions, but if you're a speaker, you turn up and you have 6 people, kind of in the audience, then is that a barometer of success? As an organizer, you have to think, what is it that you ultimately want? And for us, we want the best speakers. We want a great number of attendees to attend them. We want to be in the 50s, not with 6 or 7, because otherwise it's not going to be, it's not going to really be kind of effective. And I think there's a kind of a trade-off between that. We look at what we call, speaker to attendee ratio. So that's quite important for us. So we want to be able to guarantee that, or pretty much as far as we can, that if the speaker is coming to the event, that they are, they can be guaranteed to actually have an audience that's going to make it worth their time as well.
Yeah.
And that's a big part, I guess, about our conference. We really care about the speakers. We really appreciate the time that they're taking to be able to do it. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely a watch this space moment, isn't it? With Teams Nation, does it get bigger? I think it's getting better and better every year. Whether it's growing or not, I can see it's still the impact it's giving on the community and the people attending. It's just brilliant, because I know I've attended a lot of events over the years, and sometimes you go to these events and you come away thinking, wow, that knowledge I've learned from this has been amazing. And Teams Nation is exactly one of those.
Yeah, we really strive it's really thinking about it and thinking, what do you want it to be? We love going to conferences. We love going to, I remember the last kind of in-person Microsoft Ignite, and how exciting that was. And you want, everyone's real busy. This year's been an extraordinary year for most people that I've spoken to, but you don't want to waste people's time. If they're going to come to your event, you want them to be able to leave, kind of leave knowing that they've got something. So we really put a lot of thought around the schedule and the sessions that we pick. Are they new things? Have they got new insights? Is it, we'd love to hear this particular speaker give this particular slant on things. Is it diverse enough? Have we kind of covered the full range? Are we accommodating for the audience things like their level and where they're at in their journey with Microsoft Teams? Is there opportunities to have a break from conference sessions? So we've introduced table talks and unconference. Now that's something that again, it's not new. It's not like an innovation by us. We pulled that from Microsoft Ignite, because they've done table talks at Ignite. Yeah. And Inspire and Build. Anna Chu has really driven that aspect of those conferences, and we love that. So we thought we'd do the same here. It is very much kind of having a broad, diverse kind of program to keep it interesting. If we can do that, then most people should be able to get the insights that they want. And the good thing is that Microsoft Teams has had so many innovations and is moving at such a a fast pace. The cadence is extraordinary.
Yeah.
The most, in nearly every conference we've had, we've been able to put on kind of quite different sessions from the last one. That's been a godsend. It's not like you're kind of flogging a dead horse. So, I could never, we could never do Exchange Nation, put it that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people would want to go to that one.
Yeah, that's not really, a session on public folders and one on mail flow rules, and I don't know whether it hit the imagination so much.
No, definitely not. I think you might be sending a few people to sleep on some of those sessions.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, hey, I used to be an exchange. I come from an organisation that's based in Mail, right? So I used to be an exchange engineer. I've got my messaging. For everyone watching this, I've got my messaging administrator, and I still do it pretty almost every day. So they know the point I'm trying to get at.
Fantastic. Just to finish up, then, really, I mean, like you've spoken about the different events you've spoke at. You as I said earlier on, you're always at the forefront of things. If I see an event, your name's usually on the headliners of people speaking at. What's been like your favourite event to speak at? And then what advice would you give to someone that is doing public speaking or is new to public speaking?
Oh man, that's a difficult question. I mean, there are so many great events, right? I'm not one of those speakers that angles, shall I say, for just getting onto the big ticket events. Don't get me wrong, it's great to appear at Ignite. I mean, I've done it 3 times now, and the like. I'm in the process of trying to get in the build, so we find out in the next few days. If I didn't get into MBAS, I don't get into everything. I like user groups and smaller events as much as bigger events because they're different forums with different audiences. And one of the good things is that once you get embedded in the community, you get, it doesn't happen straight away, but over time, as people get to know you and you speak more on the circuit, you kind of get opened up to a whole different range of events with different feels and different audiences and different. I've spoken at some absolutely amazing events in the past 18 months. So just some of the ones that and this is by no means, I'm probably forgetting some here, but Microsoft 365 Madrid. That I love Spain. I love Spain. I love Madrid. People know this about me. That's an awesome event. SharePoint Saturday Cologne with Raphael Kolner, and they always organise such brilliant events. I did one before Christmas, which was Collab Days Winter Across the Alps. That was a great one. US events like Microsoft 365 Chicago or Microsoft 365 Cincinnati. The guys who ran Microsoft 365 marathons, so Joel, Ryan, Galen, and the team. They do amazing events, virtual marathon, but also as well, they did a Microsoft 365 California, which, hey, you know what? I'm going to that event when it's in person, right? Power Platform, Italy and France were great events. I've even spoken down, kind of in Nigeria, and that's the thing. You speak at places. I've spoken at Microsoft 365 Israel. I never thought I would speak in these kind of events or countries, and you get some user groups. So the Microsoft Teams Berlin user group by Thomas Stensitsky. Awesome, that you can speak at those and you know what? I'm speaking in a German user group where you think you would have to have, a grasp of the German language to be able to do that. But no, everyone who turns up, right? They said, Chris, it's okay, speak in English. Everyone who turns, and so I've been incredibly lucky. There is something that I, kind of choose what I do, kind of events and why I choose them. Maybe it's going back to the geographer, kind of in me, but I like to kind of mix it up and to try things and events that I haven't spoken at before, that it'd be great to speak, or meet the organisers and do a great job for them. But also as well, I really try to go out and promote what they're doing because, there's so many people doing such great work. In terms of speaking, hey, advice on speaking, I guess I got a few things, right? Number one, it's okay to still be nervous, before you speak. I still get it before every single time that I speak. I think that's a good thing. A lot of people think that that's a negative thing, but it's not. For me, it's a good thing because it shows you're still passionate about wanting to do well and give a great performance. I think if you lose that, if you're kind of just walking and coming up nonchalant in order to be able to speak, then that's probably the time you have to kind of look around and review and say, am I really in this and enjoying this?
Definitely. I mean, it adds to the excitement, doesn't it, of speaking at events, that nervousness just before.
I tell you what, right? I remember Ignite when I was out there, and the first time I spoke at Ignite, and it was in Orlando, and it was the first time that I thought that I literally was going to have an aneurysm before I walked on stage, right? You had Catherine Wilhelmsen, she's an MVP that was speaking before me, and she gave this amazing performance, right? And I'm sitting there beforehand and thinking, hey man, I'm dead in the water. I'm or even dead on arrival, that's, but I remember getting rigged up. They have guys that kind of put you up with the earphone on, kind of on, and I had the Microsoft hoodie and everything. I was like Mr. Microsoft at that kind of current time. And funnily enough, he said, they say to you, we're going to tell you when it's time to go, right? And they do. You look over to them, it's time to go, and then you just kind of do it. And it's good to feel uncomfortable when doing these things. You have to practice. Some days you're going to have bad performances. I had one just the other week. I had a bad performance. I was doing demos, the demo gods. It's like a circuit. People. Vesco, he always says like he's sacrificing VMs to the demo gods and stuff like that, right? It's like what? Yeah, it just wasn't working. I was doing a session. This was in the Microsoft Reactor, right? So I had a full demo failure. Luckily, I was doing the session with Vesco and myself, so kind of Vesco stepped in and his one was working, and we shunted along. But I wasn't happy with the performance.
Yeah.
You have to keep on practicing. It's not something that most people are naturally imbued with, the art of presenting. There's so much that you can learn from other people. Watch other people, watch how they handle the situations, and if there's a particular speaker that you like, don't be scared about going and asking them kind of what it takes. I mean, who influenced me? Dux Raymond. So I remember, the first time I went to Inspire in Vegas, I walked up. I didn't even know who Dux was. I'd never heard of the guy. He could have been anyone. I didn't even know he worked for AvePoint, nothing. And I signed up for this because it was about the art of public speaking. It was called like 5 points on presentations. And I walked up and I looked at Dux, and I was literally captured within 1 minute because of what he did. And hey, look, I'm not Dux Raymond Sy by any stretch of the imagination, but you can take stuff from him. I know Dux really well now, and I've spoken to him, and you can pull things from Dux. Martina Grom is another kind of excellent speaker on the circuit. A lot of people that we've got in Teams Nation are people that we really admire, and are awesome speakers on that. And you know what? I also think as well that it's good to talk to people that are new as well and pick stuff from them. So Mar Lambie, she's an unbelievable speaker. Carolina Ketukari, she is an unbelievable speaker. Johnny Lopez, he's an unbelievable, there are so many that you can. So speaking is as much as learning from other people and taking points from them, just like it is being a technician. You work with other people and get the knowledge off of them. So speaking.
Yeah. Just on the Dux thing, I know at the Teams Fest, so the last event, he did a presentation there, didn't he, about speaking. And that blew my socks off. That was amazing. I was moderating it, so it was amazing to be on there like live. But I still now go back and watch the video now and then. And if I speak to anyone that's going to talk at an event, I'm always saying, look, here's the link to this video. Watch this, because just some of the tricks he talks about are just like, wow, people are straight away engaged and so on.
Yeah, he is, and he takes it down to the real specifics and the science, and he really drills into it. You can tell that he studied not just what he's talking about, but he's actually studied about speaking. You know, people always say, why, what is it Simon Sinek, isn't it? You know, why he, if you've ever watched Simon Sinek, it's like what Dux does. You know, the real good speakers have really studied about, they've watched themselves back, they've hammered out kind of the pain points. Like, you know what? They've sat there in their room at home with PowerPoint Coach or whatever it is that they've used. They've had people review them. You ask them, you know, you've got, I know that because you're moderating the track this time around, you know, Donna Sarker, for example. Donna Sarker's going to come on. Donna Sarker is an amazing speaker, and she's just been the same as Simon Sinek and Dux. David Kellerman, David Kellerman, if you've seen his stuff, wow, he's a good speaker too. There's just so many, and again, that's another kind of what we consider of bringing on board with Teams Nation. It's not just about the content. It is about the content. That's an important part of it, but also as well, most of the people that are really great, you know, they're really good at articulating their points. You know, a hero of mine, although I guess he gets ridiculed in in areas of the scientific community, is Brian Cox. You know, I really love what Brian Cox does, and that goes back to being an educator and a teacher. He explains things so simply, and brings them across, and that is really what I want to, you know, that I do or try to do, and that's what we want Teams Nation to do as well. And it's to bring things over, not bamboozle people and try to kind of show off how technical people are or anything like that. We want people to come along and enjoy it and feel like they're walking out the door saying, hey, look, I know more now than I did when I came in and watched this morning.
Yeah, it's definitely not a flex off of who's got the most technical capability. It is helping others around you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what it's got to be about, and that's why, you know, we're a pure community conference. We're not going to follow up by trying to sell. We block vendor sessions, much to the chagrin of vendors who say, well, how can you be a true community event when you're not? Because we're not trying to sell people anything. All we want to do is to come together, celebrate Teams, learn a little bit more about it, and make people's lives a little bit easier. We've been burned at events. We've spoken at events that, for example, afterwards they've paywalled the content and stuff like that, you know, to people afterwards. So we've come along, we've created everything, and then suddenly, if you want to access it on demand, it's £50 a month or what. We don't really believe in that. We believe that the forums for business and community are separate. Now, we know that there's other people that may not agree with us, but hey, we got to hold to some ideals.
Wow. Typical style. Right on time, internet just died.
Oh, no worries at all.
Right, I'm conscious of time for you anyway, but been amazing speaking to you, Chris. Thank you very much for telling us about Teams Nation, about yourself, all those great pointers you've had. So thank you for joining me today, and looking forward to seeing that geography jacket at Teams Nation in a couple of weeks' time.
Hey, that's going to stick with me. You know, people that watch this are going to be, where's your geography jacket? If I turn up to the next in-person event and I don't have it, then I'm going to get crucified.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time, Chris.
Have a good one, Paul. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
See you soon. Bye.